Hello everybody, it's me, Beau. If you're like me, you're probably wondering, okay, what are the basic features and the setup of this AZDOME, I don't know how it's pronounced, this dash cam right here. What are some of the things that come with this? So we're gonna hop right into this review. The first thing that I did was I did not actually use the included SD card. It does come with 64 gigs. I prefer 128. And you can just get a, this one right here. It kind of looks like so. It's kind of this green, and you can see it's 128 Evo Samsung. This works absolutely wonderfully. And so you're just gonna slide it in the side, right like so. And I do have it plugged into my cigarette lighter right there. And then once it boots up, you're just gonna select the language, you're gonna select your time zone, you're gonna select the timestamp, and that stuff I don't need to bore you guys with, but I do actually want to show you some of the basic features that I would recommend. And I have reviewed dozens upon dozens of dash cams, and so this is what I would recommend. So first of all, you'll see the little buttons on the bottom. And in order to access the menu, you're gonna push that M right here. So let's take a look at the menu. Oh, wait, turn on. There we go. Oh, wait, there it goes. Now it's booting up right there. And it's waiting, and beautiful, now it's up. By the way, I did turn off the ketone, which means that there's no chime. The boot up chime drives me absolutely crazy. So you can see that kind of right there. It's a little bit of a glare, but it is actually on. But we're gonna put this in the shade so you guys can see. There we go. Okay, so once again, to access the menu, you push the M under here, and look at all of those features. From left to right, we've got video settings, playback mode, parking monitor, all sorts of goodies. The first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna go all the way over to system settings, and we're gonna push OK. And you will see that that fatigue driving reminder, that's already off. However, it will probably, if you're in the United States, you're probably going to want to select miles per hour. By default, it comes in kilometers, so if you're our Canadian brothers up there, you might want to keep the kilometers, but etc. So I selected miles per hour, and I also turned off the ketone, which drives me absolutely crazy whenever you boot up your dash cam, and this pleasant little chime tells you that it's on. And at first it's cute, and then by the 100th time you're like, okay, I don't need a pleasant chime every time it turns on. So I turned that off. It's nice to have that feature. Some dash cams do not have that feature. Okay, now we're gonna go down to screensaver. Screensaver by default is on 1 minute, which I really like. So that basically means that when you first turn it on and then you wait 1 minute, then the screen will dim. It will still be recording, but the screen will be off. Nice, huh? Time zone, we already set that on the initial setup. And let's go ahead and click back by pushing the menu like that. And then it takes us back to this. Now let's flash actually to the first setting, the video setting. And by default, it's pretty much good. The resolution is already at its max. You can see that it is ultra high definition. So that's 4K at 30 frames per second. That's fantastic. So we're just gonna keep that by default. And we're just gonna scroll down to loop recording. Loop recording, I actually changed. I prefer them in 5-minute chunks. Initially it was 3-minute chunks, but this basically means that all of the video files that are stored on this thing are in 5-minute chunks. And then it will erase the last one used, basically the oldest footage. Does that make sense? So I like to keep it on 5-minute chunks so that if I'm in a car accident, I can simply take this SD card home, upload it to YouTube unlisted, and send the link to the police officer and say, look, I am not at fault. Here's a 5-minute chunk of video. So we're gonna push OK. And rear camera, I'm not actually gonna set that up quite yet, so we're going to deselect that one. In case you're wondering, the rear camera does plug into this end right there. Okay, and the rear camera looks like this guy right here. There's quite a large bundle, and this thing goes all the way back, snaking through the back, and this eventually will go. So this is my existing dash cam right there, which I'm gonna get rid of, and that thing is gonna snake all the way back. So it might take you a good hour on a weekend to go all the way back there, and most people perch this right above their license plate, if that makes sense. Time-lapse record, no, we're not going to time-lapse anything. Record audio, that is on by default. You want to keep that on. WDR, that is not on by default, and I turn that on. That basically means that you can see in the shadows easier, and so I prefer that setting on. And frequency, don't care about that. G sensor, I actually turn this off simply because I've had too many false positives of like, let's say I go out to my car and I open up the door and I get something from my glove box, I close the door. Well, this senses that someone is like trying to get into your car. And when that happens too many times, it fills up my micro SD card. I don't really care about protecting my car with the G sensor. And so in that particular case, I just leave that off, okay? All right, so also parking sensor will have to actually be hardwired into your car, but we're not gonna cover that right now, okay? So exposure, I leave that as is. Resolution, that is already at the max, and that's basically just starting over, if that makes sense. So we're gonna click menu and go back to the beginning. Playback mode, that's obvious. Parking monitor, again, I'm not gonna hardwire that in, so we're gonna leave that disconnected. And date, time, Wi-Fi. Apparently you can connect this to your phone, which I'm not really going to worry about. Lastly, timestamp. This is very, very important. Timestamp I do put on so that people will know when this actually happens. The speed stamp, I deselect that because let's say I'm going 2 miles over the speed limit. There are some weird lawyers out there that are gonna see that, or maybe it's not quite 100% accurate. So I don't necessarily want my speed connected to that footage. You know, I'm just gonna leave that off, okay? So for safety reasons, I'm gonna leave that off. GPS stamp, if you wanna know exactly where you're at on the footage, it will actually put your GPS coordinates time-stamped on the footage. I personally leave that off simply because you can usually just look at the footage and you can tell pretty easily where it took place, just looking at the footage itself. So the GPS timestamp, that's just redundant and it's just text that gets in the way. So that is pretty much it. We're gonna hit menu and we're gonna go back to normal right there. And that's the quick and down and dirty setup right there. Now I'm going to go and clean my windshield and put the mounting shoe on the windshield, and so that it will stay put nice and easy, and it's actually absolutely imperative that you do in fact clean the inside of your windshield, because if you don't, eventually the heat, like the summer here in the Pacific Northwest, the sun will come down and it will bake the inside of this, and eventually that will fall off. So do clean your windshield, get all the invisible gunk and grime so that it will actually last a long time. So that is it. Wow, that was just a whirlwind, but hey, I do this to try to save you at least an hour of guessing features, but those are my top features right there. Hope this helps.